Hi, it's Mrs. Simonson, and we're ready to start Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is the 6-column worksheet. And so we're going to use this tool. It's kind of like a T account. It's just a tool. And we're going to figure out the net income or net loss. And it's kind of like the final step before we do the end of the period types of activities. And after this, we're going to know our net income, our net loss. We're going to be ready to prepare our financial statements for our outside users to use, and we're going to be ready to close out the accounting period. So let's jump into the first section. There's only 2 in this chapter. And so we're going to start off with just how do we prepare this worksheet? What is it, and what does it involve? The chapter starts off by talking about maximum period for accounting cycle is a year, and who in their right mind would wait an entire year to do all these things. So mostly, most businesses do it every month. The first 5 steps that we've just now completed, those are done often, like every day, every week. And then the last 4 are done at the end of the period, whatever that might be. So we're going to prepare this worksheet. We're going to prepare our financial statements. We're going to do something called closing entries, and then we're going to prepare one final trial balance after we're done with our closing entries. So that's kind of where we are in the cycle. We're ready to do end of month, end of year, end of financial accounting period, whatever they're using, all those procedures. So the worksheet, the definition here is that it's just another tool that you're going to use to look at the ledger and take the information from the ledger and prepare to calculate a net income or a net loss. The funny thing about this is, oh my gosh, it's the only thing, like when I was in high school, it's the only thing that can be prepared in pencil. Everything else had to be prepared in pen. You had to cross things off when you made a mistake. You can never erase. Erasing is permitted on the worksheet. Oh my gosh, so cool. We can erase. And so all this done with technology and Excel or Sheets, all of that kind of goes away. But it is a working document. It is something that people scribble on, and they're just trying to figure out net income or net loss. So it's not going to go to the IRS. It's not going to go to external users. It is an internal document. So there's 5 sections to the worksheet. The first is the heading. So that heading that I started to talk about for our trial balance, it's the same: who, what, when. The business name is the who. The what is worksheet this time instead of trial balance. And the when is a little bit different. So some statements have the exact date, and then some have for the month ended or the period ended and the last day of the month. So it's important to know which of those statements have that, and for sure the worksheet has that. So it's for an entire month. It's not for a specific date and time. Like we can crank out a trial balance for any day and time that we want to try and make sure that our ledger is in balance, but the worksheet only happens at the end of the period. Okay. The second part of the worksheet is, sorry, I could have made that bigger, is the account number and the account name. We include everything just so we don't omit anything or make a mistake. The third part is the trial balance. Now, up to this point, we can do a trial balance anytime, but when we're at the end of the month, we don't do a separate trial balance. We just do it right here inside the worksheet, which is kind of interesting. The next 2 columns are for the income statement. We're going to talk about that in the next section, what that means. And the 5th is for the balance sheet. So those are the 5 parts of the worksheet. It's called a 6-column worksheet, just like those ledgers were called a 4-column. The 6 columns refers to the 6 places that money can go into. Okay, so don't get that mixed up with how many columns here. They're talking about So whenever it defines something as a blank column, whatever it might be, it's the number of columns allowed for money or numbers to be entered into. Okay, so I already explained a little bit about the heading, who, what, when. This is for the period, so it could say for the month ended, for the period ended, for the year ended, for the quarter ended, whatever the business's accounting period is. Account names, we just list them all from the chart of accounts or from the ledgers. Everything goes in there. We don't want to accidentally forget something, so we're just going to list them all. They go in order. Assets are the 100s, liabilities the 200s. The owner's equity or capital are the 300s, revenue are the 400s, and expenses are the 500s. And you can see those examples right there. I would say you're gonna want to take, and I'm going to do an example of a problem, but you're going to want to do an equals and go to a different tab and grab that number so that we don't have any transition errors, transposition errors where you've copied something over wrong. So use formulas to do that for sure. The trial balance section, like I said, don't use a separate piece of paper for the trial balance. If we're at the end of the month, it happens inside of the worksheet. Just like we talked about, if it's a 0, they'd like a line drawn through that. But since Sheets doesn't really do that very well, we can just put a 0. That's fine. Now we define a little bit about ruling. I told you, or I showed you some of the ruling done when you're inside of these new reports. And so ruling means drawing a number. So when we're ready to total something, it's a single line. That means that a total is coming. And when things are equal, we do a double rule. And that means that the two columns or the two numbers are equal and nothing's going to go below that information. If they don't equal, then we're going to stop there and we're going to go back to some of the stuff that we talked about in Chapter 7 about finding errors. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So that is the basic information about a worksheet and starting the trial balance. So you can think of this section right here as last chapter when you were done posting to the ledger. So it's the same trial balance, it's just on a different sheet of information.